Brian, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Rio Grande Valley Business Journals podcast. Today we have two guests with us, Jim Darling and Brian Godinez. And so before I introduce them, I'm going to let them introduce themselves actually, because they are very busy in our area and they have so many titles. So Brian, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm CEO of ERO Architects, and when I'm not running ERO Architects, I serve on multiple boards. The one that we want to focus on today is the Institute for Leadership in Capital Projects. We call iLinkUp, and we recently set up the RGV chapter, and I'm president of the board of the local chapter for iLinkUp.
All right. And Jim?
I think my most important title is I'm Sandra Darling's husband.
Yeah,
We'll
that
just leave
definitely
it at
is.
No, actually, you're more involved in that.
I'm Region M chairperson, and Region M is a water planning group, and we just finished our fourth 5-year plan, which goes to the state, and so all the cities and people that purchase water through the Texas system have to have their strategies in our plan.
I just got
So
a
it's a
text
lot
from
of
Sandra,
strategies.
by the way.
Okay.
You've been demoted.
But, Jim, you are also a longtime leader here, served as former mayor of McAllen, have been, with the university as well. Tell us about your experience.
Well, I moved to the Valley in 1978, and my first job out of law school was assistant city attorney, so I've seen the Valley grow. And I think my early career as a lawyer, I was city attorney in McAllen, but also had a law practice, so I represented Hidalgo County, so a lot of school districts, cities, and so I was a lawyer for Rio Grande City when they reincorporated. That was exciting to see that, so I feel kind of connected to a lot of cities in the Valley and watched the valleys grow over the last 45 years. It's a fantastic place to live, a little hot in the summertime, but we really have it all here. It's a great place to live.
Awesome. And so today we are here to talk about infrastructure needs for the Rio Grande Valley and an upcoming event that will highlight some of those projects and initiatives that the Valley is moving forward. So, Brian, can you tell us a little bit more about that event?
I certainly can. So the iLinkUp and the local chapter, which started last January, has been doing a series of events focusing on economic development. We've been creating these events as a method of awareness of what we're doing as an institute and as a chapter. What the chapter's ultimate mission is to take all our professional services companies, which represent close to 2,000 in our region, for about $20 billion industry in the Rio Grande Valley. And because they all have individual trade and organizations that they participate in, this is the first time that an organization has been created where all of the professional services and construction industries can come together with decision makers, owners, and share best practice ideas, all with the same mission is to improve and be successful in the capital projects that grows our industry, grows our economy. And that's what we're doing. This coming Wednesday, a week from today, next week on November 19th, at 11:30 to 1:30 at the Embassy Suites at the McAllen Convention Center. We're having a network luncheon, and the title of the event is Foundations for Tomorrow, addressing the infrastructure challenges, opportunities, and solutions to grow our economy. And the focus is going to be with that. We've invited Valerie Segovia, who heads investor relations for the Texas Economic Development Corporation. She's going to be our keynote speaker. And she's going to talk about how the Valley positions itself in terms of investment and marketing, and how it compares either to the rest of the state and or the country, and with its focus on infrastructure and some of the challenges and opportunities that exist that we may need to be focusing on to become more investable, more marketable. And after that, we have a great panel that's going to be moderated by Sergio Sanchez from KURV. Okay. And Jim is one of the 4 panelists. We have Mark Drombowski, the COO of the Brownsville PUB, who's going to focus on power and energy. We're going to have Raul Cecine, who's the general manager of Hidalgo Drainage District number 1. His focus will be on regional drainage. And we have Pete Alvarez, the FAR district engineer with TxDOT on roadways. And lastly, my good friend here, who's going to be focusing on water, Jim, will be on that panel. And then we have a few other speakers that'll be there as well. But it's Wednesday, November 19th. You can register for the event. There's a fee to be able to attend for members and non-members at i-lincp, i-lincp.org. Go there, and there's a method on how you could register for the event to attend.
So you're going to have basically everything covered from energy to water to roadways. And so tell us how that fits into economic development, right? Because we can't grow without the infrastructure. Talk to us about that relationship.
Well, we've been focusing on what we call the different legs of economic development. So the first two events was how economic development institutions, organizations regionally work together to be able to attract investment and to attract companies to come down here to ultimately create jobs, and how Mexico and the U.S. work together in harmony to be able to do that. The second one we did back in June was on education. We called it Classroom to Commerce, and how high schools all the way through higher education work together to create a stronger, more advanced and well-trained and talented workforce. And it's important. So now we're focusing on infrastructure. We believe that roadways, we believe that drainage, we believe that every aspect of infrastructure is important for the economy to be able to grow because it connects communities, connects commerce, connects our binational trade, and it all has to be flowing in harmony. But we have lots of challenges. We have to have everybody working collaboratively, everybody needs to be communicating, and there has to be consensus. Without that, we can't be working together on addressing our region-wide infrastructure issues, like water, like roadways. Jim, this is a perfect segue to you to come in here.
You know, what is our biggest challenge here in the Rio Grande Valley? And I think, you know, we might agree on it.
Things pop into my head when I was listening to you. And so I thought, let me say one thing that's kind of different, and we want to leave anybody behind. But I'm the board lead for what they call Border 2025. And as I was talking, listen, Border 2025 is an EPA program.
Okay.
And it's a 5-year program, and we deal with colonial issues. And we do both sides of the border, 50 miles on both sides of the border, in very modest things. You know, I thought about McAllen when Wi-Fi and all that came out, and we were able to come up with a thing where we use our telephone lines and our street lights and provide Wi-Fi to our special needs communities that weren't going to have Wi-Fi. But we couldn't do it out north because they don't even have street lights in the colonias. And drainage, when you talk about drainage, I'm thinking drainage projects have never reached those areas either, and we're still approving subdivisions with septic tanks in the rural area. But so I bring that we're wrapping up Border 2025 because it's 2025 has got 1 month left, and we're having our meeting of what we accomplished. The shutdown of the government kind of hurt some things and all that, but I want to say that this is all very exciting and economic with the university, what it is. I mean, 10 years, it's amazing what they've done, opportunities, SpaceX and all that, but we still have a great part of our population that's not as excited as we are about what the future is from that standpoint, and we can't leave that behind. So hopefully we touch on that a little bit, that when we do infrastructure, we think about basic infrastructure, that we're talking about advanced infrastructure and things like that.
What happens when
overlooked.
advanced manufacturing and data centers want to be here? What's the number 2 infrastructure requirements they need? And what is it that we're challenged with?
Electricity.
And water.
And water.
Yeah.
Yeah, water, you know, water is an issue. If you take a look at it, agriculture's been destroyed. I mean, almost destroyed. I mean, they had enough water to keep the citrus trees alive, but not to have any marketable fruit this year. And you can't make your living on sorghum and corn, feed corn and all that. And they just got a little bit of water into their accounts this last month, first time in over 2 years. Wow. Nothing to really plant your next year's planning on. And so agriculture was so huge in our area. I don't know, somebody's going to have to tell me the statistics, what it went to, what it was, and what it is now. Is pretty bad. From an employment standpoint, probably less impact because it was lower wages and et cetera when you have the agricultural.
But still very important industry here in the Rio Grande Valley.
And
but the challenge of that is we went from soil to concrete.
Yeah.
And that's where our drainage issues, and that's where our flooding started.
Where does the water go now?
Exactly.
Right?
And
Not
a lot
into
of
the
those were, a lot of our drainage were borrow ditches. When they made the canals, they had to dig the water up to make a canal, and there's a borrow ditch, especially in the western part of the county. And that became the drainage system for everybody. It was a borrow ditch for dirt, and it became your developing city drainage system. And so, thank God Hidalgo County, I think in the last 10, 12 years has made huge strides in drainage. And the cities We could gather our water in McAllen, but we can't take it out to the Gulf of Mexico.
Right.
I mean, could, but it'd be silly to have 20 cities providing. So the county's really stepped up.
Working on the Raymondville drain.
Working on the Raymondville drain. That's a great project, the Delta project. All the water goes out to. On the south side, it goes through the floodway system through the Arroyo, Colorado, to the Arroyo, Colorado. And I think there's probably, if you look at maybe Business 83, a little bit south, that's where all that water goes. Anything north goes out to Raymondville drain.
And for those that don't know, the Raymondville drain basically is an expressway for water, right?
Yes.
I've heard it.
A big ditch.
Basically,
It's a big ditch. It's
but
a ditch. It's a man-made ditch where it takes all this is, in the valley sheet throws, and we're in the Nueces Rio Grande Basin, and so everything kind of expressway sheet flows northeast, and so you got to gather it. When it rains in your neighborhood, you got to gather it and take it up there. It doesn't go by itself.
and it goes all the way
it floods
70
it.
miles, I believe, right?
Yeah.
To the what is it? The Laguna Madre out there.
Yeah,
To the bay.
In the bay, and so and then on the south side it goes out to
the river,
Colorado. It goes actually into the thing too, into the bay too.
And so this project though has been in the books since the 70s, I believe.
Yeah,
it's like
70s.
50 years in the making.
It strictly was a drainage project, and they had a lake out there, and sometimes they had water, and sometimes doesn't. The quality, because it's farmland lake, which is not good, and Sun City Sewer Lake, and all that kind of different stuff. And so they decided they collected it, you can treat it, and so they said, there's a water need, so let's try that. It's a great idea. And water reuse is one of the tools in the toolbox of dealing with drought.
And the county is working on that, right? The Delta Reclamation Project.
And then, McAllen reuses a lot of their water, their sewer water on the north side. Many days it doesn't go any place. It goes to the plant to cool the plants out there, the electrical plants. It goes for outside use in Tres Lagos, and so it's treated water. You could actually reuse it, and a lot of people reuse it again for drinking water. This was used for other purposes. South McAllen plant gets used on the golf course and some from coolant, and so you almost, what water is available, there's even things we haven't done. Reuse of your sewer water is one. I think the big one we miss out on is conservation. We went through the drought of record, but people didn't realize it. When we had the drought of record, it ruined agriculture. Cities were allocated 100% of the water.
But not agriculture.
Yeah, and the big thing was, okay, cities got 100%, but it's no two reservoirs. How does it get to the cities in an inefficient delivery system? And they did a study in 1998 with the previous drought of record. It's called the Brandis study. It said the average city would get 63% of its water because there's no ag in the system pushing it. And so the river does is much more inefficient that way. Not much Mexican water. And like Brownsville would get a lot less than Laredo because it's further. Well, we had the worst drought of record 2 years ago. A year and a half ago now. It was much worse, much longer than the original drought of record, and the city's got all the water. Now getting it from the river to that city is another story, and that's one of the infrastructure needs we want to talk about, and that's where the cities and irrigation districts need to improve that system. Because you have districts that have 100-year-old pumps and canals, some even are dirt canals out there, and that's where the cities need to say, we're partners in this deal and try to get together and improve some of that. Doesn't mean that everybody needs it. Some districts have done better than others. But just an overall look at the agricultural system, where we go from here.
And that's a challenge, Jim.
We can't count on that.
And that's a challenge. We need so much improvement in mobility, so much improvement in drainage, so much improvement in access to water, access to fiber. We're growing. We're the fastest growing population in the state. And that means, as a professional services entity, our architectural firm, like all the brothers and sisters of the industry here, we all want our economy to prosper because that means there's going to be more horizontal work and more vertical work.
Sure.
And so one of the things that this organization is trying to do is to bring the decision makers together with professional services, because as much as we know we need to improve, there's just a fundamental human thing that's still missing that we need to improve on even more, and that's communications. If we really want to achieve true regionalism, for us to address these infrastructure challenges, we need to be communicating better, we need to be collaborating better, and we need to build more consensus so that we're all working together under one common direction, and that's to improve our regional mobility, our regional drainage, our regional infrastructure, et cetera. And so we as professional services would like to be at the table helping as much as we can in that collaboration, in those communications. And that in essence is what the mission of this organization, what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and we have so many cities, right? It's not like there's just one entity that can focus on the region, right? You got to work.
It's too
with
much.
all of the municipalities, so
Yeah.
it's
So
a
everybody has
challenge in
to
and of
park.
itself.
Everybody has to check their ego at the door
And everything
in order to work
you
together.
work really hard with the city, got a good relationship with the mayor. Next May, the mayor's not there anymore. There's a new mayor, and
Right.
so you
Right.
start all over again,
Yeah.
building those relationships. And sometimes those are a little harder than not. That's why you got to be careful who you support in elections and say, "Well, I can't get in this. I don't know if I want to. I think you're going to win, but I can't. You don't want to be involved in that." But that's interesting. We're talking about electricity. Let me ask you a question. Who do you get your electricity from?
Well, AEP Texas, then through what is it, Magic Valley Electric Co-op.
Okay, so you just mentioned two. You don't get your electricity from either of those.
No.
Mine's
Well, now Magic Valley may.
I have Stream Energy.
What you get is that's how your electricity is delivered to you.
Okay.
You buy your electricity from somebody else.
Oh.
Okay.
I buy it from Stream.
When they deregulate it, of course, Magic Valley is a monopoly but they also manufacture their own. They probably buy more of their power than they produce. But yeah, so that's one of the issues. When people say, "I got a manufacturing plant, it's going to take X amount of power and all this lines," and say, "Okay, we got to go talk to AEP," and AEP is the one that provides the line. Picture your power from wherever you're buying it from. They don't produce power. And so you're competing with everybody from AEP that's north of Corpus, and it comes like a horseshoe, goes down the valley and goes way up West Texas. So they have a budget, and they got to support West Texas, Corpus here, the valley, Laredo, all not Brownsville because they have their own company. They wheeled it from someplace else. But so people understand the complexity of even getting electricity. We're so used to turning electricity on and it works. Who cares?
I like the water faucet
I'm going
too.
to build a plant that's a 20 meg demand, and so how do I do that? And it's not so much the getting power generated. That's an issue, but that's really a bigger issue we can't control because most of it's generated out of our area. But getting it to you in your plan is an issue because they only have a budget for this year, and they got people all over their system asking for service.
And our energy needs have really skyrocketed.
Sure.
I think we had an article earlier that said that I think in the past 3 years, and I forget the actual statistic, but it's like the past 3 years, demand grew the same that it did over a 30-year period previously. And it was mind-boggling just to hear that from AEP Texas.
It's a lot of things that they say, but now you can't spill everything out here today, man, because then they're not going to want to come to the event because you're telling them everything. Can I remind them? They want to hear more about Jim. Wednesday, November 19th, at the Embassy Suites at the McAllen Convention Center, 11:30 to 1:30. I-lincp.org to see this man and 3 others talk more about our infrastructure challenges. Okay, now you can talk some more.
I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, electricity is interesting. I worked at DHR, and one side of the street was AEP, and the other side was Magic Valley, and so you had to deal with two different entities. Or you had AEP was a stockholder owned, and Magic Valley is people own it, the customers own it, their board is elected by them, and et cetera. And so you're dealing with different entities and different needs and different ability to serve. And so you have to be electricity is not as simple as you think. But a lot of people, it's how much I pay for it, and I go on the power to choose and say, okay, 5 cents and whatever it is, and that's it. But it's much more complicated than that for economic development purposes.
And so some of the solutions that have been proposed for some of these big infrastructure needs, talk to us about the biggest ones that, are currently either, being developed or, worked through here in the Valley.
Well, I think with the merger of the MPO, transportation was a huge issue for us. And I think we still don't have the loop.
I was going to say MPO. That's probably the biggest issue that's been going on.
What we did is we have an RMA and an MPO, and we complicated our own process. We have 2 entities that are controlling those main.
Well, and then mix in TxDOT.
Yeah.
And then you got a good soup of a lot of stuff going on. But the loop is the biggest infrastructure project that's been going on for years and will go on for at least another 20, 25 years.
And they ought to merge that. That's one that probably I know people don't like that, but that's when it needs to be merged into one to get it done. That's a good solution.
Yeah.
Merge to get it.
Merge to get it done.
Merged in one to get it done.
Merge in one to get it done. There you go.
That's catchy.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been, that's a change too. I mean, it's significant when we merged the MPOs. The money came in. When we created the new university, the money came in.
But you see what happened? Collaboration, communication, working together, then the funds start coming in, as opposed to individual small pies trying to get the same dollars, but bigger dollars when you're together. That's what we need to be doing more of.
Right. And so the different MSAs too, right? Like, is there a way to combine our two MSAs?
That discussion's been going on for quite some time.
Yeah.
McAllen,
Because
Brownsville
we
MSA.
really are a
Some of the
huge region.
Yeah, just some of the numbers look, but population number looks a lot better. Some of the other numbers don't look so good when you mix them, and so
Like
I think
educational attainment or something like
some
that.
of those, poverty numbers and some of those things. And so, I think we bite the bullet and mix it and say, okay, you know what, let's lift everybody up.
But it might happen. I mean, UTRGV was the first big trigger that actually legitimized and validated our region as one. Then the MPO merger was another big validation point, a big milestone for us. It seems to me that the MSAs combining together might be the next big one.
Yeah, and that's really political. It's just because they're different names. And we don't want to lose our autonomy.
Well, like DFW.
The smaller one doesn't want to lose our autonomy by going, how you name it. But that's where you sit down and compromise.
Mac Brown?
Yeah, but I mean,
Mac Brown?
you would think that the name
Mac
is
Brown?
Yeah,
Mac Brown.
Mac Brown. But yeah, that's the issue is, getting everybody to say, okay, it's really pride.
Right. Check the ego at the door.
But Dallas and Fort Worth did it.
Yeah.
They finally did it.
Yeah.
They finally did it.
And ultimately, that number of population is what's the bigger driver than poverty level or whatever. I mean, we're looking to draw people, say, here's how many you have in this area, and I think that's an important part. And everything else will go up anyways, when you do the merger.
But a battle cry is infrastructure for all, and nobody's left behind. Jim mentioned earlier about the colonias. There's almost 2,000 just in Hidalgo County alone. Cameron County may have half that number. And then you've got the urban sprawl of population growth that's been going on in the metro areas between McAllen and Brownsville. But the battle cry is no one is left without infrastructure. And that is hard to do when you have so much rural areas in this region to be able to accomplish that. The loop will accomplish the mobility side of it once it's eventually built. We hope that'll happen.
What's the relationship there between the loop and trade, right? International trade. How important is that for our region?
Well, it connects to all 14 of our bridges.
14.
Yeah, to eventually get them all connected. Is what we're hoping on, to be able to do that and have commerce be able to travel across much easier and more efficiently. I mean, the federal government is trying to make crossings easier.
Right.
As much as we hear about the immigration issues and what they're doing in terms of border, but the technology that they're installing in all of our ports here is really, really amazing to get trucks to move quicker, to get vehicular traffic to move quicker, to get pedestrians to be able to cross faster. That technology is getting better and better to be able to do that.
And the expansions, there's a lot of investments in our bridge. FAR is about to double its capacity.
McAllen, Anzalduas.
Anzalduas is
Donna's about to spend $70 million for their bridge.
Well, talk to us about it then.
Well, Donna's about to spend $70 million for their commercial import lot, as well as on the Mexican side, so they can have trucks there in about 2.5 years, to kind of follow the success of what McAllen and FAR are doing.
Yeah, the federal government's done a good job of spreading the money out, and so none of us have been able to get a competitive advantage over each other as opposed to everybody getting better. And I think that's been important. I think I don't know if the federal government did it on purpose or whatever. It's unusual.
but
it's
happening.
Brownsville got theirs, and Hidalgo, or we got our money for Anzalduas and FAR and everybody. So
and there's plenty of
and there's a lot to go around, right?
Yes, look at
money.
Laredo. How crowded it is and how much it brings in, and
I think us spreading it has helped though too, because it's helped on the Mexican side itself, and Laredo's been just Laredo. So if you've ever been to Laredo lately, it's pretty busy with truck traffic and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
But it's all part of connecting the dots. I mean, commerce connects to quality of life, connects to more population, connects to more public service, connects to more expansion, connects to more homes. It just all connects. When commerce is flowing, populations grow, which means everything else grows, public service grows. When these property taxes go up, sales taxes go up, it all connects.
One thing I think that's very important when we're talking about colonias and all those kind of things is the state doesn't allow cities to annex anymore involuntarily. So cities are able to control what happened in their areas. City regulations are much stricter than the counties.
Right.
Don't allow septic tanks, etc.
And that's an issue, right? Because the county
Yeah.
can't impose those regulations,
Right.
and therefore, people can build.
That's right.
They don't have the tools to do it, and cities do, and the cities can't annex. So you have developers out there say, hey, I don't want to be annexed. You can't annex me. I'm going to go to the county get mine. And so instead of making progress on eliminating colonias, we've now increased the number that are happening. And I love to get the state down there and said cities aren't land grabbing, we're trying to survive for survival. And also look at the quality of life that certain people can't afford this or that, and they're moving into those areas and don't realize, I got my home now, and I don't have a septic tank, I don't have fire protection.
Infrastructure for all.
And who's benefiting by that except the developer that doesn't want to meet the standards that people should have when they're buying their house. They're putting their money into their dream house, and it's too bad. But that's politics in Austin. I'm not going to talk about it.
It's going to be real fascinating to hear the perspective of the other gentlemen that are going to be on that panel. The head of operations for the Brownsville PUB. They're not only involved in power, but they're involved in all other aspects of infrastructure in Cameron County, connected to the port, connected to their bridges, connected to all of that over there. So with the Cameron County perspective will be on the panel, along with Jim, and then the TxDOT perspective with Pete Alvarez, and what's going on with our roadways connected to the MPO, connected to the RMA, and then finally with Raul Sistine on drainage. So all of those infrastructure aspects, to have a 45-minute to an hour dialogue like we're having now, is what's going to happen a week from tomorrow on Wednesday, the 19th, at the Embassy Suites, the McAllen Convention Center, 11:30 to 1:30. Did I mention how to register?
Go ahead.
I-lincp, ilinkup.org. Right there on the homepage, scroll down about a little bit and you'll see the link to the event that we're having here in McAllen. It's an important event. It's a good conversation. And Jim is just one aspect and perspective of 5 other speakers that are going to be there.
All better prepared than me.
No, I don't think they're going to get near you, but that's okay. We'll catch up with you.
All right, gentlemen. Well, you heard it here. Make sure to register, be part of the conversation, be part of the solution. And so I want to thank you both for joining us today. And, stick around. Make sure you watch our episode next week.